Check out my shelf, isn't it neat? Some contain loose cards and some are complete. Some I have still yet to beat. You know, retro games are hard. Check out this box, console so old. How many controllers are riddled with mold? Why do I insist to keep? Well, these things are not cheap. I've Atari, Nintendo, and Sega, PS1, 2, 3, 4, and 2 5s, but I've no time to play any either. This won't rhyme, but it's fine. Let's pop it in. Released in 1991 on the Nintendo Entertainment System by Capcom, The Little Mermaid is based off the film of the same name. The 1989 film makes up part of what is known as the Disney Renaissance period. In fact, it was the movie that kicked it all off. Simply put, the Renaissance period was a time when Disney went from appreciated works of art, such as Aristocats, The Fox and the Hound, and Basil the Great Mouse Detective, a personal favourite of mine, to absolute commercial successes and cultural phenomenons, like Lion King, Aladdin, and of course, The Little Mermaid. Now, if you've been living under a reef your entire life and have never seen this movie, its basic synopsis is that there is a young mermaid, and she yearns to know more about the world outside of the sea. She falls in love with a landwalker named Eric, who of course happens to be a prince. This is Disney after all. And her desire to be with Eric becomes so strong that she asks her evil aunt Ursula to see what she can do about it. She makes a deal with her, but that is not all it seems to be. Now, if you've never seen it, go watch it. After all these years, it is still a masterpiece of animation. Now, personally, I can't speak on the remake, as I haven't seen it, but rarely do these outdo the original. Ariel, the Little Mermaid, who became human, and Eric, Prince of the Land, are head over fins in love. But Ariel's friends are in deep trouble. Ursula, the evil witch of the sea, has cast a spell on all watery creatures. If Ursula is not stopped, she'll take over the ocean. Can Ariel defeat her in time? And will she ever return to Eric? In an obvious but still nice change of pace from most NES games, you spend most of your time here underwater. Ariel flaps her fin to fire projectile bubbles which can trap enemies, much like in Bubble Bobble. But, unlike in that game, with this you can actually use them as projectiles. Flapping your fins, you won't get too far. Flapping your fins can also help you search for buried treasure in sandbags. Now these are found within the various levels, and will contain items to increase your score, such as dingle hoppers and snarf blasts. Another thing you can do is pick up shells, which also act as projectiles, but perhaps more usefully, you can use them as a shield and run into enemies to take them out with. You also need these shells to open large chests scattered throughout the levels, and inside you will find power-up pearls that increase Ariel's bubble strength and range. Now, this is another Capcom Disney game, so naturally the graphics are great and faithful to the movie, and I especially like the boss sprites in this. As for the music, it's really good too. I mean, just listen to this 8-bit rendition of Under the Sea. So, as expected, this game was a huge hit with female audiences, who didn't really have much representation in the early retro days. Yes, we will be covering that game also. So, from what I can recall, The Little Mermaid was the very first VHS tape I ever got as a kid, back when Disney was still releasing physical media. I loved it dearly, and I'll be honest here, Ariel was most likely my very first crush. The movie showed me that great animation is capable of making you laugh, cry, and cheer, all the while being thoroughly engrossed in the magical world Disney has created. Once again, if you've never seen it, I highly recommend it. As for the NES game, I was aware of the pedigree that Capcom Disney games had as a kid, having played DuckTales, Chip and Dale, and a little bit of Darkwing Duck, but this one escaped me. Also, being a later release probably didn't help. So, as for pricing, you're looking around $30 for a cart, and it's about $60 if you want complete. So, that was The Little Mermaid. Now, this was a very important film for Disney back in the day, and it's a solid video game entry. Yeah. It's not the same pedigree as a DuckTales or a Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. Throwing shells as projectiles, it just isn't as fun as pogo jumping on enemies on an old man's cane. But it is a very decent underwater former. Yeah. So with that, it shall be flipping its fins and landing on a place on my shelf. Now, in retrospect, there are no bad games, but there is bad singing. And, well, I'll let you guys be the judge of that. See you later. My mission, should I choose to accept it.